to introduce our next speaker slash entertainer, performer. Her name is Xoli Mabuza. She is from South Africa, specifically in the Mpumalanga province, which means where the sun rises. She is a poet. She's a designer. She's also a cricket commentator and analyst for Likwala Kwala FM, which is one of the radio stations here. She's doing amazing things with her voice, with her chi. And she's going to share a piece for us today. She's been profiled on different stations and she's been on the international stage and been in a couple of poetry exchanges. She also hosts poet sessions in her place where she lives in Pinar, which is also in Mpumalanga. And her whole thing was about creating a platform where people can learn from each other, where people can be able to express themselves through words, through voice. And I think her poetry and her creation of space is healing the world. I think there's so much chi that it's coming out of every single hole in our bodies and moving through us and moving through people. So, Oli, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Hello, how are you? How is everyone doing? Firstly, I would like to say I'm happy and thankful, grateful to be part of this amazing event. I'm learning so much today about myself, about my chi, and about chi. So I am grateful and thankful for this space. Wow, I didn't know all these things today. I'm like but to be in this space for listening to me in this event, I am grateful. I'm going to share with you a piece titled "My Mother is a Country," just to give you an idea of what this piece is about, so that you don't get lost. This piece is about my mother and all the other women I grew up around. I believe that those who were here before us were us, so in a way we are them. And looking at my mother, her life, her sacrifices that she has made, the life that she has given us as her kids is amazing. It goes out of what anyone can give you. So in a way, she shared her chi. She gave up a lot of things to give us chi and share chi. So I hope you guys enjoy. The poem is titled "My Mother is the Country." So this is the country where I'm from. She's done packing. Her suitcase is full of sorrow. Her suitcase is full of questions. What have I done that no man has ever done in this world? Where did I go wrong? She's looking around her house, searching her room carefully to be sure she hasn't left anything she might need. No, it's clear that she packed everything, even those pearls that grandma gave her, that small brown suitcase her first husband left behind while chasing scares. Yes, she packed that too. She forgot the broken pieces that our father buried in her throat to choked cry. When she picks up those pieces and drowns when she thinks of him, tears would flood her broken face and wash away the pieces and bury them in her smile. So every time she smiles, she would hurt and continue to break. My mother packed everything, all her things but herself. She left herself behind. With her suitcase in her hand, she's ready to travel from country to country. She's crossing borders without a passport. My mother is a country without a national anthem but a cry. My mother is a forgotten country and we are forgotten cities. Hiroshima and Nagasaki becomes real when you look at her. Mother is a broken country with one school, one syllabus that teaches you how to say sorry. Our mother was left behind. She left us behind too and traveled to the unknown world where men never return. Our mother is a country that left all her provinces and cities behind. She sweats in the absence of the sun, suffocating in the presence of air. My mother was a neglected country, left to take care of her cities and provinces by herself. She then worked so hard with no hands but her soul until we fed from the soil. Our mother worked so hard with no hands but her soul until we fed from this soil. Our mother decomposed in this soil so we won't go to bed hungry. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, man. That was beautiful. Yeah. Our ancestors, our living ancestors, our children, we're all constantly sharing chi in one way or another, you know. And that was a beautiful representation of that, you know, to remember that it can even be an inherited thing, you know. Sometimes it's not even your own thing. And I think it's a beautiful way which represents how we also attract and how we can ingest other people's things, whether good or bad. So thank you so much, Xoli, for that beautiful piece. My mother is a country. Bless you. Thank you. Yes, we're now moving on to the panel discussion. We have 4 panelists, one of them being, actually we have 3. I forgot to mention that Mama D will not be part of the session. So it will be Dr. Chilav, it will be Reverend Dr. Wai Ching. Where's, where's the rest of the spelling? I can't see now. And we will also have Mkulu Makanya as well. So this is we're getting blessed, hey? We are so excited for this. So I hope the panel speakers are ready. And you know, just an introduction in terms of the other speakers. Mkulu Makanya is a healer, he's a notiist, he's about spirituality, African spirituality mostly, but I love how he has a very holistic worldview of what spirit means. And he's bringing that to the table, which I'm very excited about. And also with the Reverend Doctor, she has integrated chi and water, which excites me so much. And I would really love to start off with you because I feel like there's just a way in which you have your own perspective of Qigong. And I would love for that to sort of make sense to the rest of us. Like, what do I mean when I say, you know, you have integrated water with Qigong? The floor is yours, Reverend.
Thank you, Mvumbi. And the flow is all with us,
Wow.
right? So we're flowing with the flow.
Yeah.
And I must have to say a personal thank you to you, Mvumbi, and for holding the space for this, and Lesego for inviting me. This is such an exciting moment to connect with the African consciousness. And here we are speaking about Qigong from the African perspective. And of course, you know, this culture, which is certainly close to my blood because I remember being African in my past lives. So I am now very excited to integrate and to weave in these waters of these emotions that we have together now. And we are weaving the matrix here so deeply with each one of you. And I just feel each one of you, even though I can't see all of you, the blood that courses through our veins, you know, the blood that makes us human and mortal and one, really, and how we connect with the earth. And if we're talking about water, we're connecting with the waters of the earth, the oceans, the lakes, the rivers, the rain, and the waterfalls that runs in our waters, as we are mostly water. Even the brain is 95% water. And that the waters are connected to our emotions and how we feel about each one of us and how we feel about ourselves. And we are here together now on this World Tai Chi Qigong Day to bring in the feelings of love, which is the highest frequency, 432 frequency of love, to share with each other, to do this healing for the planet. And this is so important. And I actually have here to even open this, and this is the 432 frequency. I don't know how it's going to translate through this, but perhaps we could just listen to it and bring it into our hearts, and then bring the love in, as with Dr. George Love as well, who I met in Bali. And then we're going to be presenting tomorrow, right? That's George, that we're presenting on the Congress of Qigong, TCM, it's a very long name, Tai Chi and Healing Art. So George and I were presenting on that as well. So anyway, here's a... So that's the 432 of love, and let it take it into the blood and the waters. And in terms of water, I've done Qigong also in water, and it's called white Y meaning water, and Qi, of course, with the energy in water. And we've done healing work, and we've actually made changes in the molecular structure of water. So in terms of working with transformation, transmutation of our emotions in our bodies, which is really express the pineal pituitary, the thyroid, the thymus, and then the adrenal glands, as well as the sacral glands. So these are emitting and the hormones, which actually help to translate our emotions into our cellular structures. So when we change these waters, fluids in our body to create a fluid body and a fluid spine, as we pump up the cerebrospinal fluids up through what we call the infinity orbit, or some people call it the microcosmic orbit, up the spine into the brain, the dura mater, and then into all aspects of the fluids, the salivary glands, into all the blood and the lymph. And also very important is the interstitium, which is even a different part of the fascia, and it runs through the body. And this is where the meridians run. So we download the light matrix from our soul, from Shen, into the Qi body and into Jing, the more physical form that is held in all the Tantians. So since this is a Qigong platform, I can mention all these names, all the centers of our bodies, and then it's distributed to all the cells. And that's where that transformation of light begins to affect the interstitial fluids of the cells. So that, in brief, is the introduction to how the waters might be related to our Qi body and the bodies of the ecology of our planet. And so we are here together to do this deep healing work of the emotions and love and the healing of the planet.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. You've broken it down quite nicely and also a bit jargony for me. Like, I don't know some of these words.
You will, since you are learning more Qigong from, George and myself, and,
Yeah.
whoever.
I mean, you guys are masters. So you guys have been
excited, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're learning so much. Something amazing happened to me yesterday. So I've been having a lot of very busy days, but yesterday was, I think, exceptionally busy because there was a lot of meditation, especially in terms of the session. And, there was a lot of, I felt like very, very busy, very high. And I felt like my brain was expanding, and literally the only thing that could calm me, was water. It's got such a beautiful way that it just, and I'm not even talking about just ingesting it, but even just having a few drops of it on my head, I immediately felt it, be better. But I want to speak about how sometimes there's this thing about charging water, you know, and charging things. I wanted to find out from you, from a Qigong point of view, the benefits of that and even the how to.
Wonderful. Of course, this is impromptu. This is totally spontaneous. We didn't plan this at all, but I love talking about this and how we charge from a perspective of our bodily technique, just pure Qigong, bringing in the light energy from the Qi atmosphere, and then delivering it through the palms of our hands to our hearts, to all the chakras, if you will, healing centers, Tantian. We are all the same anatomically, really, So if we have that intention, the E, to send it, and we send it, it takes about, scientifically, 7 minutes for us to charge or structure the water and for the molecules to hold. Okay? So that is average. But if your Qi is very well evolved, it can be instant. Now, what's also interesting is that I actually have this on me, so I had to take it out. It's can use other tools. For example, this one is an earthing card that works with the coil, the Tesla coil at 7.83 hertz, which is the resonance that we resonate with the earth. It's called earthing card, called the Schumann's resonance. Okay, so I see Lesego trying to see it, and I know doing this at the same time. This is totally unplanned. Oops. And so there's something like that. If you run water through this or put this in your bath, then structure the water. And so this is very easy way to structure water, including drinking water. I put this, my tea, on this, and it structures like this Zoom call. We can use technology to help humanity at this time, to boost our immune system, right? We use it. We have to use it. And especially, like what I'm wearing here too, it's nitric oxide, which is oxygen that you have to bring the blood flow. Of course, then we must do the breathing. And I resonate with Mama G, and I was breathing so deeply. With the Qigong that I teach called Infinity Quantum Qigong, it's 8 counts in, hold for 8 counts, and 8 counts out for the basic. But 8 counts in, hold, circulate, build up the charge, and then release for 8, each at 8. So that's why it's called infinity. And something magical, transmutation happens in a cellular level. It's just the mechanism. And we have many different breathing techniques, but this is one of them. So when you ask a question about structuring, there are many, many different ways. And now there are developments of this kind of technology, scalar wave or quantum technologies, to change swimming pools, spas, hospitals, homes. It's all available now. And I'm just supporting my friends who are also doing this, on a technology level, whereas I teach from a body technology level. So we can structure the water. Most importantly, we structure it within our bodies first, through the breath, through the intention, and through shifting, and of course through good water and good food.
Especially because we are water first of all, right? Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Of course. Dr. Love, I would like to move the floor to you. And I love how Reverend mentioned that it's magical, but it's all very much like a biological thing when it comes to Qigong. The energy it looks like magic, but it's really not. It's about, harnessing your own power. And when I was researching and I found out that you're a historian, specifically an African historian, you've traveled all the way from Egypt to Ghana, to Swaziland, all the way here, and I love that. And I think you can bring some more insight about, Qigong in the African context. So I want you to tell me about your perspective on dance, the Zulu warriors, and how that makes sense. Because when I was doing my research and Lesego was telling me that, there's this amazing information that you have that a lot of South Africans probably don't know, let alone Africans, let alone the rest of the world. Please, can you break that down for us?
Okay, so where do I start? All right, so there's a 5-part miniseries called Shaka Zulu. It was done by the BBC. And in one of the scenes, there was 2 generals and they were having a battle of their troops. And so one army was threatening the other with the spears and the shields, and they're both doing these martial dances, but nobody died, nobody got killed, nobody was even injured. So the one general speaks to the other general and he said, "Oh yes, I believe your army won the battle." And then they retreated. And Shaka Zulu came up and was like, "No, people are going to die next time." So he invented these weapons of mass destruction. But originally, they were just martial dances. So a few years ago, I got invited to a Pencak Silat camp in Indonesia. And Pencak Silat translates as martial dance. So intriguing. So I'm there for 10 days. This is after I met Wai Ching Lee, who's my Facebook friend that I really wanted to reach out. I met her, then we went to Yogyakarta to this martial arts camp. And I got punched in the face. I got kicked in the groin. I got thrown through the air. And the fourth day, I got up and I'm like, today I am a warrior. So for all these years, I've been doing soft Qigong. All of a sudden now I'm a martial artist. And I'm 20 years older than anybody else in the camp. So it was pretty intense for me. So the last day, they asked me to demonstrate my Qigong. So I did so, and they said, well, that's a lot. And I'm like, it is? And they're like, yes, let me show you the martial applications of all of your movements. And I was completely blown away because I didn't know that there was a martial application. So when we do the Qi cups, which are called magical passes because they create geometric patterns in the air that are reminiscent of a three-dimensional Qigong, three-dimensional yin-yang symbol, that's the magic. So when you can create movement that mimics a geometric three-dimensional pattern, that's where the magic is. And that's what infuses your body and expands your Qi field. However, you can also use those rotational joint movements to confuse your opponent and block and strike at the same time. So that's the most fascinating of all. Something that heals could also kill. So let that stay down. So in between there's peace, you still have to train for war. So the dances were the way kept in shape extremely hard during the sports season, but in the months that you're off, you still have to train. You don't train as hard, train lightly. So I believe is a way to keep in shape until you're actually training. Okay, does that resonate with everybody?
Makes a lot of sense.
That makes sense. Okay.
Makes sense.
So, I was cavalry. I was the leader of the cavalry. And before I'm going to put you on a horse to actually fight on a horse, I'm going to teach you stance. And you have to stay horse. And you have to be ambidextrous. You have to be able to fight with both left hand and right hand to either side. You have to shoot your bow and arrow this way, and you have to be able to shoot your bow and arrow this way. And then you have to be able to move your arm in such a way that you are getting the bow. And that's where the dance comes. So if we look at the Zulu warrior dances, you see all of that. And I've been watching African dance videos months looking to show how the movements actually are healing. And that's what I'm going to present on Sunday at the World Tai Chi Day. I'm going to present those particular movements. But for this particular audience, every time we expand this way, we stimulate the membrane around the heart, which is called the pericardium. So any movement this way, cardio. Any elbow movement expands the triple heater, circulatory, digestive, reproductive. So there's a particular dance movement that does this. So any dance movement that incorporates that is working circulatory, digestive, reproductive, and the membrane around the heart. So I think that's in and of itself pretty interesting. So when we push, anytime there's a thrust, we call this palm strike in martial arts. Anytime you do this push, you're working the small intestines. When any movement where you use your wrists, you're doing the heart, because the heart meridian starts in the armpit. And anytime you do a grab and you turn your wrist, then you're strengthening all of these tendons, which are in line with the heart meridian. Okay, so I could go on and on and on, but the issue is that I've connected the dance movements to meridians and to particular organs. So the lungs and the pectoral and the subscapularis, anything to do with the shoulder is going to be also heart and lungs. So any dance movement that incorporates this is going to work your heart and lungs. And then any movement that involves stomping of the feet sends a shock wave up the inside of the leg to the birth chamber. So that's why African women who do African dance don't get uterine cancer, don't get fibroid tumors, don't get cervical cancer, they don't get any of the developing, the Western developing nations' chronic diseases, because they stomp their feet on the earth, okay? So we have kidney, liver, spleen go up the inside of the leg and go into the groin. So the kidneys are a filter of all the fluids, the spleen filters through the lymphatic system, and the liver filters all the blood. So anything that involves stomping of the feet is going to stimulate kidney, liver, spleen, meridian, and organ. So you're not going to end up with kidney pains, because when we don't dance, gravity compresses the spine, and then the kidneys get scrunched up and they can't get their full movement. And then anything we do to this, any dance movement we do side to side, also opens up the kidney meridian. So I don't want to belabor you with technical biology, but I hope that answers your question.
It does answer my question. It does. And I'm so grateful for that, especially even the last part where you included the stomping of the feet and how that is basically supplements for the birth canal, you know. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And it almost leads me to my question for Mkhulu Makanya, because from a South African spiritual point of view, you know, when we stomp our feet, especially sangomas, which Mkhulu Makanya is, that is a way in which we wake up chi. You know, we call it to vusa idlozi. That's the actual wording. And some people can only be in trance after dance, especially specifically from stomping of the feet, because that's what is taught in the initiation school. So I'm very grateful that you added that on. So Mkhulu Makanya, good day. Is it afternoon yet for us? No, it's still in the morning. Good day to you. And my question for you is around the collective chi. You know, when researching you or seeing you in terms of your engagement on social media, what I've picked up is that you truly believe in the power of collective prayer. You know, I've seen how you've just put people together for a specific cause and how that has manifested in whatever the intention was. I know there was a time when somebody was missing. At some point, you are even so specific that you say, we are going to pray for our siblings this week. You know, the following week we'll pray for our children. You love the power of fasting in numbers. And I feel like that's chi, you know, I feel like that is working together, you know, whether it's all of us lighting a candle or not. You know, I love how you always make a way that we all need to find what works for us, but we need to tap into the source at a similar time. So I guess my question for you is, how do we get to do that more, um, outside of just the praying or the coming together at a certain time, but in the helping of our bodies, especially African bodies? You know, I know you've spoken about obesity within the African people. I know we need to get moving. So I guess my question is, how do we go about that? Of course.
Greetings, Govan Salama. Greetings to all the panelists. Dr. George Love out in the US. Greetings, Reverend Dr. Wai Ching Lee. Lovely to meet everybody, and greetings to all the audience that are joining our conversation this morning. It is really, really, really a great honor and pleasure to be here, to be sharing this knowledge that we perhaps have to a certain degree, and to be able to empower each other in this way. You know, collective consciousness is one of my passions, as you have put it. And we as African people, as Black people, we come from a heritage in the past of activism, particularly political activism. So I came up with a thought that, or an idea to say, but if we can organize ourselves for social liberation, for example, or for social freedom, if we want to put it in that way, or social justice, I think we have moved into a time where we also need to begin to organize ourselves to move towards collective spiritual healing. And so the approaches and the methods that you are referring to are one of the ways in which I try to organize the people to become spiritual activists, if we can put it like that, to say that you need people who are going to be intentional in relation to healing the planet, in healing our communities. But what is also key for me, it is the need that is there to be able to simplify the intricate and perhaps mystical principles, so that the everyday person can be able to make use of them in their everyday life. So that's one of my biggest concerns, and perhaps one of my passions, to be able to take what we learn in our initiation processes, that which is perhaps could be perceived to be like a secret, or that which, you know, knowledge that is reserved for people that are in initiation societies. So we need to be able to say to ourselves, how do we take okay, I'm getting disturbed here. How do we take the knowledge that is seemingly removed from people, bring it to the people in a manner that is simplified, and in a manner that does not necessarily disregard or disrespects the orders that we belong to, and actually take the knowledge and give it to the people so that they serve a healing purpose. So in relation to Qi, see, when for example you're in China or in the Asian, then they will call it Qi. If you are in Egypt, perhaps it's going to be called Ra. And then when you are in the African space, then it will perhaps be called Umoya. And even the principle of Umoya can be broken down in many other descriptive forms. But there is no way for us to come together to achieve any collective healing if we do not honor the energy that lies in the base of the spine, that lies in the womb, that lies in the sexual chakra. And my work then says Qi, in as much as it is inside the body, we also find it outside of ourselves. The ancients speak about the fact that we have what is called an inner sun, and there's also the physical sun that we know, or that we all know of. And so for us, it's about creating an awareness for people to say that which is on the outside is also on the inside. And through the rituals that we provide, we are able to help people activate that energy, make use of that energy for us to facilitate and actually achieve healing work. So unfortunately then, for example, if you come from parts of Africa where tap water is not clean, that unfortunately then does not help in your cultivation of Qi. Secondly, it's a global problem, overeating and, helping people to be conscious in what they eat. So the quality of water that we drink and the quality of the food that we eat will then determine, obviously, how far the body can go, number one. Number two, it will also determine how far one is able to project their consciousness into other realms. For example, it affects your dream state, it affects your, apologies, it affects, the health of your heart, how much Qi you're able to pump. So those are the technical issues that we also need to bring to our people in order for them to understand that the challenge of clean water is not just limited to physical health, but it has also got to do with how much your body can actually take, how much your vision can actually be able to be projected into whether other spaces or even in relation to your everyday life. Also, our understanding is that our ancestors are in the blood. Okay, so there are people with whom you can take a drum, beat the drum for them, and that they can easily access, channel ancestors. And there are people who struggle with that exercise. And that has got to do entirely with how healthy the body is and how strong the Qi is. There are people who are able to channel spirits, to channel ancestors and have ancestors speak through them. If your Qi is not strong, if your Ra force is not strong, you cannot participate in that kind of exercise. So the healthier the body, then the greater chances for you are there to actually have a direct connection with your ancestors and to receive higher guidance. So for me, to answer your question, the importance is just two things. The first thing is that we need to make our people understand that healthy eating, drinking clean water has everything to do with creating good opportunities for us to receive guidance from the higher world. Number two, that then offers us an opportunity to be able to be effective in the work that we do in the spiritual space.
Of course. Thank you so much. That definitely answers my question. Thank you. I loved how you briefly mentioned sexual Qi, and I would really like to open up to you, all of you, in terms of our panel guests about that. I feel like that you're quite knowledgeable, especially when it comes to Egyptian Tantra, so I wanted for you to just talk to us about sexual Qi a little bit. It's a very open question, but
I actually teach something called sacred sensuality, which has nothing to do with sexuality per se, but sensuality, and it encompasses all of life. And certainly you tune in, because it's the first time we're meeting, but you've tuned into the priestesshood of Egypt, for sure. So, and where we practice, and also the Taoist monks and nuns, we practice that, as you know, in moving the Qi through the microcosmic orbit, and also learning how to pump the energy up from the perineum and up. Maybe we can do this exercise during my session. And yes, it's the life force, right, that takes us through into the kidneys, into the umbilical cord, from the umbilical cord connected to the DNA. And this is something that I've integrated into this work of bringing in the life force, the creative life principle of the Divine Mother, the matrix of the universe, into our bodies, and remembering who we were who we are, and bringing all our full power to bring through the ancestral memory and also to bring it out into the world. So this is so that we can hold the frequency, as Mkulu so eloquently said, is hold the frequency so that we can bring in all the ancient wisdom through our bodies and out into the world right now. We really need it for this spiritual activism. I'm definitely a spiritual warrior, and this lifetime and many others. And so we have to bring this forth. I would like, if you don't mind, Muvumbi, is that I would like to introduce two spiritual warriors online with us, and that's Princess Mataji Tejumai Devi, who's from the Cameroon. She's in France at the moment. She's a Chi sister, and also His Highness Yang Mulia Muhammad in Malaysia. And they are my Chi brothers and sisters, and also Brother Heng, and we're holding the frequency. I invited them to come on to hold the frequency for all of us with Asia and Africa later now as well. So they are online with us, and just to maybe send some love to them, and they can connect also with everybody here. And so seems like a good time to introduce them.
It is. Thank you all so much, Your Highness, and I can't, Mataji, my cause. Thank you so much for holding space for all of us today. And if you would like to bring in something in terms of the questions that have been asked, you know, I would not mind to open the panel for that. Thank you.
Okay, so are you gonna?
Are you speaking, Mataji? Are you opening? Are you speaking something?
Oh, just thank you. Always there for the light and the unconditional love that we are. And thank you again, Wai Ching. Wai Ching, I love you. I
love you.
All of you, you know, with the Namaste, Hotep, Bonjour, Saubuni, and, you know, all the multi-dimensional language that we use to communicate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Chilove, was there something that you wanted to add with regards to the question regarding sensual or sexual chi? Before we move on?
Yeah, well, I actually have a lot to say.
It's a whole new panel and session.
There should be something on sexual Qigong. There should be something definitely just about sexual Qigong, because I have two very close friends who have uterine issues, and they've asked me to help them outside of their medical challenges. How can I help them develop their birth chamber? So I've spent a lot of time in the last year, the last 12 months, working on that. And what I realize is that we don't use our sexual energy properly. We don't do it in a sacred way, and we don't do it in a healthy way. So we're driven hormonally, and our hormones are out of whack by our diets, chemicals that are in the food supply that were not there 50 years ago. So if your hormones are out of whack due to chemicals in the food, and you're emotionally out of whack due to lack of proper training in communicating on a higher emotional level, then that blocks the sexual energy. And then instead of using sex as a way of opening the heart, we use sex in a very profane way. So the first thing I do is I teach non-sexual touch, how to touch yourself and other people or people that you're in emotional relationship with, how to touch in a way that doesn't make them feel like they're groped or like you deserve to do this for me, or I deserve you to do this for me. So First, we learn non-sexual touch, then we learn non-sexual massage, and then we learn exactly how to express our sexual energy, and then we learn sacred sex. So there's 4 layers to learning about how to use your sexual energy properly. And it cannot be explored in one 20-minute conversation. But it's something that's, I think, is completely necessary to have the discussion, that acknowledging, 1, we're not doing it properly, and 2, here's how we do it. And then for those people who are already on this level, like the Reverend, sexual energy and sexual stamina is the thing that women complain about, especially after the age of 45, because women's sex drive actually goes up after 45 and men's sex drive goes down after 45. And if your emotions are whacked out and your hormones are whacked out, it's a miracle any of us connect on a heart spiritual level to start.
Yeah.
So shall I go deeper, or shall I just
I would like you to, but we're just running out of time before we move on to the next thing. But I would love to wrap the sexual chi up just by asking Khulu Makhanya on his thoughts about it. This was specifically asked from one of our participants. If you could just add your perspective on the matter.
There is a need for us to liberate sex and to begin to present sex as a divine element that is not meant to harm. I think that the narrative that we are currently sitting with, and of course where we come from, is that sex is well, particularly in the third world country, where the biggest teacher or the biggest chunk of the teachings that are coming about sex come from the Christian tradition. There's a need for us to liberate sex from dogmatic teachings and dogmatic practices. And I think it is due to those approaches that we have sought to see sex as something that we need to steal. Sex as something that we need to, once you have stolen it, it's something that you need to selfishly keep to yourself, because supposedly it is scarce, and to a certain degree then that creates patterns of abuse. So I'm all for sexual emancipation and liberation, if there's such a thing. But as Dr. Love said, we don't have the time to go into that, but I would just like to pose that as a challenge to everyone to say, in what ways or methods can one free themselves from the fear of sex, from the anger that is projected towards sex, and especially the fear that is projected towards sex.
Thank you. There is definitely a fear,
Just to say that I'm following up with Mikulu's illumination, is that also I do work with women who have been sexually abused, and men also as children, and there's a deep healing that's really needed at this time. As you know, there's no need to elaborate, but this would be worth speaking about in another time. And those issues.
Yeah, for sure. We need an entire session just on sexual and sensual healing. But just to close off, yeah, we do. Lesego, I hope you're listening. You need to do the things. But just to wrap up our entire discussion with the panels, I think what is reigning supreme is that Qi is about compassion, is about love. It's definitely about loving yourself and loving others around you, and you can't do that without it first being an internal sun type of reflection on yourself and how that can radiate and permeate to everybody else. What I loved as well, especially with Dr. Chi Love, is that there is what can heal can also kill. And with regards to using Qi to strengthen ourselves, to infuse and expand our Qi field, and how we can use that as a defense or an attack, and how with Nkulu Makanya coming in and talking about collective spiritual healing, collective spiritual activism, and how starting from there, we can then start to sort of break down all the other things that we have in the world that are necessarily not for us, whether it's dirty water, because we are water, as the Reverend said. By doing all of that work, we can be able to really see and therefore really hear and really therefore really ingest and put a vision for our lives and how we can be able to manifest whatever it is that we want. And I really loved how at the end, Dr. Chi, you mentioned that when you do start touching on sexual Qi, you start with non-sexual touch. And I think that goes back to the fears. It even starts asking questions about consent, because like, for example, with me as a mother of young children, I love how before we talk about sex, we talk about consent, and from that non-sexual touch space, you can be able to get to sacred sex, which is what we'd all love to do. And I think there's something just to read here from Dr. Love. He says there are 4 reasons: procreative, recreation, and sexual healing, and sacred sex. So I was saying that, it's nice to start from non-touch all the way to sacred sex, of course. Yeah, thank you so much for that panel, and for everybody that joined with that.